everybody. Welcome to another Common Grounds Meet the Members. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jo Stevens and I'm the coordinator of Common Grounds Women in Business Network. Thank you so much for taking the time to check in and learn more about our amazing Common Ground members. Now, Common Grounds provides coffee meetups for women in business to network and connect with like-minded women in business. Now, we have an amazing, diverse group of women. And one of the reasons why I started this blog chat was to help these incredible women spread the word on not only what they do, but why they do what they do. Now, today I'm joined by the amazing Ruth. Welcome, Ruth. Now, would you like to formally introduce yourself and the name of your business?
Hi, Jo. Thank you so much. And hello to all the listeners out there. My name is Ruth Cleminson and my business is Flourish Academy International, which is an online learning platform. We also offer workshops and things in the community as well, and training.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what that is? What is it that you offer, kind of thing?
Yeah, so the whole ethos behind Flourish Academy is more the online accessible training for everyone. So a lot of the work that we do is aimed at parents or professionals who are in the caring profession. So my background is social work. So by trade, I'm a social worker, counsellor, somatic therapist, yogi, all of those other different things, mum, etc. But what we want to do really is bring all of the skill sets together so that parents can actually have accessible learning opportunities to develop and connect their relationships with their children, and professionals to enhance their skills in the sector.
Oh, fantastic. So it's like using your professionalism that you have, like, with in your role, like as a counselor and with what you offer in Flourish, but it's then having it those online learning platform for people to do as for them to like do as through themselves. Is that what it is? So it's like an online platform kind of thing?
Well, I guess the background to all of this, I should probably go into it a little bit more. Our first and another existing business is Flourish Community Solutions. So that was born out of really seeing a massive need in the sector. So my background as a social worker, I worked as a general manager in a huge care agency. And I guess what we saw there is children coming into care, families being broken, a lot of trauma reenacted through the experiences that the children were seeing. I went through a period of burnout in the sector. And yeah, I guess we just thought that it's got to be a better way because, these families need to remain together and it needs to be done safely. So, and a lot of the things that we saw there was that children would really go back to their families anyway when they reached 16 and they were able to make their own choices. So all of that trauma was delivered to them and experienced for no reason, One of the huge gaps there was the parenting. So yes, there was lots of heavy stuff like neglect and alcohol and drugs and mental health and things like that. But there was also a lot of just parenting stuff where parents have not been able to understand how to parent because they were never parented themselves. So I guess the work we do in Flourish Community Solutions is very much focused on that high-end stuff.
Yeah.
We actually saw that there was a huge need for the wider public to be able to access a lot of the educational resources that we put into the Flourish community world. So the trauma-informed, the real tools, strategies and frameworks to be able to deliver effective, really communicating sort of methods with children, being able to develop and enhance that relationship. We saw that that's available to everybody in the community for Flourish Community World, but Joe Public wasn't able to access that because of the cost and the avenues to referrals.
Absolutely. That's incredible because so funny when you were saying that before, learning how to parent because a lot of the time we don't we all go in it when we have a child, we have no expectation of what's going to happen, only from our previous our parents and other family members that we see. But sometimes that's not a good influence, and I suppose this is where this training can really come into, to help that, the families, find that way of how to parent your child, because every child is different as well, and giving them that education. And that's so fascinating. I love that you're doing that. So it's a way for them to access that community sport, that professional education that they need, but as you're saying, that cost that's out there. And so are you finding that, is there a certain kind of like the families that are coming in, or is it so just say, is it those who are going through crisis, or is it those like myself, like who just needing that extra support?
Well, it's actually just people who need that extra support. So what we do is we have parents who might just want to learn how to have a better relationship with their child. We've all been there in the tween years and the teenage years where you're just like, who is this beast that I've created? You know what I mean? So we almost just need to switch our understanding, and your parenting style changes.
Yeah.
So I guess the platform and even the workshops that we do in person, it's not about saying, that you need to parent better. It's about saying, what have you got? What strategies and skills do we need to do to like switch up your parenting to really respond to the needs of your own child? Because like you say, every child is different.
Yeah.
And then we look at children that have maybe special needs that they need to be addressed. They might have different perspectives on how communication works. We all perceive things differently. So it's about understanding language, personality, and taking into consideration some of those disorders that we see now, such as ADHD and, all of the other things that we see in that world. So, yeah. And I guess what we saw with Flourish Community Solutions, we saw that the work we were doing there was so valuable.
Yes.
And it was so enriching, and it got results really quickly that we thought, right, how do we really bring some of those learnings into a platform that's accessible to just Joe Public?
Yeah.
Somebody that just get online, do a quick course, watch a quick webinar, and just go, you know what? I needed to hear that today. Those are 3 strategies I'm going to use for my kid in the next month, just to see if that changes my relationship.
I love that. I think that's so needed, because I mean, I know, like, just talking like as a parent myself, my children are adults, but those teenage years were especially, and I love my daughter, love you a lot, but it was really difficult sometimes. But having that support, and having the guidance there. I mean, I always remember doing, was it the Triple P or something like that? I can't remember when I was younger, and doing doing that course. But it wasn't really like it wasn't really there, like giving you the information that you needed, like for these teenage years, as you were just saying. So, and like different, adolescent years that they go through. I think they're the hardest for anybody listening.
And I think it evolves as well, doesn't it? Because we've got like social media and things like that. Like, thank goodness social media wasn't out when I was a teenager. I'd never live it down. So for me, I'm really like, conscious that we've got to evolve with the times, and now we're seeing AI come into it. So there's a lot of different sort of landscapes that are changing that we need to adapt to as a parent, and that's not always easy, particularly when you've got the usual stresses of life going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ruth, what makes you so passionate then? Like, I can hear it a little bit in there, but what made you passionate to go? Like, did you start in the in the, I'm trying to think of what the word would be, but like in the public system, and then then you went into having your own business. What made you that passion to want to create a business that was going to be supporting families? What brought you to that?
I guess I've always been into, children, protecting children is my huge thing, right? I guess even back many, many moons ago when I was personal trainer, I taught young children's classes, because I was really keen to watch children develop and enhance their skills and things like that. I think when I was back in the UK, so I've only been in Australia 14 years. When I was back in UK and Europe, I did a lot of work with families in different communities. So Fijians, I know we mentioned Fiji earlier on, the Nepalese community. So actually really responding to different cultures and having that sensitivity around what's needed, and also learning from them as well. Just really enhance that passion and I guess that level of empathy that you have for how people parent. I guess the reason why things developed for me as a business owner was because I saw some of the failings in the system.
Yeah.
So I never set out to be a business owner. Well, if I was going to do it, I'd do something like, pretty, like you could do, I don't know, laser clinics or beautician or something like that, something that would really fill my cup in a way that, was a little bit less stressful. But I think the reason why I ended up being a business owner was because I saw a lot of the gaps when I was working in huge agencies, particularly the care agencies. And yeah, you just see things that your moral compass, I guess, doesn't agree with.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what caused the burnout. So there's all this money surrounding these kids, but the kids weren't seeing any of it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, results weren't actually speaking for, the value exchange wasn't there. The money was going in, but the value and the outcomes weren't happening, and the kids were getting more traumatized. So for me, my business partner, we sat there rocking back and forth after burnout and leaving the job going, oh my goodness, nobody's going to employ me. I'm a little bit crazy at the moment. And we just thought, let's just see if we can do something ourselves. Start off really small, but with huge purpose. And I guess it was bringing in some of the models that I'd learned from the UK and from Europe about more that healthy parenting from keep the parent healthy. That's the first thing you do, which then supports the scaffolding to allow the family to remain safe, the child to remain safe. Yeah. So there's a lot of frameworks that underpin the work that we do. But the passion just comes from seeing the results. Yeah. Seeing families being able to maintain a relationship, families being able to stay together, when you've got extreme families with crisis, but also families that might be just having a few hurdles like we all do, going back to when my kids were smaller. I look back now and I think, geez, maybe I would have done that differently if I knew what I knew now.
Yes.
I used to say, it's funny because when I taught parenting programs in Germany, I used to always say to them, I'd go into the session and I'd be like maybe trying to get my toddlers into the car and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, for God's sake, just put your shoes on, and then I'd get to the parenting program and I'd be like, okay, we have to all be self-regulated. We not to shout at our children. And I'd be like, I'm such a hypocrite. This is how I got my kids in the school yard today. So, yeah, but I always think if you don't reflect on your parenting, that's when you need to check yourself a bit more.
Absolutely. And we are just trying to navigate that world. And yes, we're going to have those times when they drive you insane and the voice might raise a bit higher. And I think that's just natural. I love that. 100%. Can I ask, so we're talking about a bit about your programs. So can I ask a little bit about what kind of online programs there is? And is there a certain target? I know you were saying it's for children and, but is there ones for teenagers or one for for infants? What kind of programs is it that you have online?
So the programs that we have online are mainly aimed at adults, so mainly aimed at parents. So we have different sections. So we have parenting education, and we also have professionals who are looking to enhance their qualifications and skills and things like that. So in the parenting world, we'd probably have things like connections through play-based therapy. So where they learn a little bit about how to use play as that connection piece with their young children. There could be things around understanding neurodiversity. So how that shows up in your kids, how to deal with some of those moments that might not feel necessarily good, the challenging moments when you just want to scream. Things like managing burnout, being a healthy parent, like I said, is really the scaffolding around keeping your child healthy. And if you can't do that, then your child's going to suffer ultimately. So you really need to invest in yourself. We have things on we have a program called the Therapeutic Toolbox, which is more those high-end children who are maybe expressing themselves through behaviors that we don't really want to see. So it might be a bit of aggression, it might be a little bit of damage, it might be, verbal language. So supporting children and supporting parents in how to understand that better, but also strategies to really get through those periods as well. So we have those type of things, but we also have some really nice ones like baby massage. You know what I mean? It's not like all trauma. Yeah. It's there's some really nice bits there as well.
But I love that you were saying that a minute ago, like, that learning to play and learning to, build that relationship through play. Because, like, I think we were talking earlier, it doesn't always come naturally, I mean, like, for that with parents to do. And, like, and also, unfortunately, I think when we're talking about the world that we're in now, I can say that, I've gone to playgrounds or walk part, gone when I've gone for my walk, and I can see parents just sitting there on their phone and the kids
Yeah.
are just, running around. I feel like we're a little bit disconnected, to well, I've seen a bit of that, maybe it's because I'm older, I don't know. But when my children were younger, I didn't have the phone. I didn't have that kind of thing, so I wasn't, engaged a bit more, but it could have been the television as well. But I think that's so important to understand. It's not, sometimes, the parents just don't get it. Like, how do you actually play with your child? What is it that you actually do? And I think I love that you're providing those programs. I think that's fantastic.
And listen, the being on your phone, we all do it, and it doesn't make you a bad parent. It's about those moments, capturing those moments of, genuine, purposeful connection with your child. And so many ways to do it, and so many beautiful ways that enhance your relationship with your child, but also those moments that you just go, wow, okay, that's my kid. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's some beautiful stuff that we do in that space. A lot of the stuff we do with children happens in person.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of different practitioners that work alongside us, parenting practitioners, and also we have a beautiful yoga lady that comes in and does a lot of connection stuff. We have a breathwork lady that does a lot of programs with tweens to support them in understanding their self, but also understanding how to navigate difficult relationships.
Yeah.
Particularly girl relationships, where you've got, a group of friends that might be a little bit mean girls and things like that. So there's a lot of that stuff that we do in person through the workshops.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's a professional side of it, which is a lot focused at leadership and things like that. So, yeah.
So how long have you guys then been, like, has Flourish been going? Has it been a few years now, or?
So Flourish Community Solutions has been going 8 years, and Flourish Academy International has been going 3 years. It's a bit of a passion project that we just keep adding to and, evolving over time. So it's organically growing and spreading its wings. So, we're really proud of it because it was one of those things that came from seeing the need through our own eyes, I guess, and seeing what we could actually be offering to the wider public.
Oh, I love that. And, like, I had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine, we were talking about, like, how there's so many women out there, when you're saying, like, it was an accidental starting a business kind of happened. I think that's how many women start a business, is with an idea or something that hasn't worked in the workplace, and then they've just brought it into a business. And
let's face it, starting a business, like, come on, we don't do this by accident because we want a business. You know what I mean? It's got to be a real passion, because, like, owning a business is hard, right?
it is, and you have to, as you're saying, it has to be coming from the heart. And, and I was saying that to someone the other day, if you're in business just to make money, I just don't feel like that's going to work. You have to get that passion for it. I want the ones that are, well, for me, it's all about heart, giving. I think that's, where, your business will thrive, because people will see that, because they see how much you flourish in that.
Well done.
What am I? Oh my gosh. Look, thank you so much for sharing that. And I will share all your links if anybody is interested in getting in touch with Ruth and finding out more about the information. But I want to ask, like, is there, like, one bit of advice that, actually, probably two little bits of advice. Let's start first one with, like, with business. Well, I think we just talked a bit about it, like, in business. Is there a business advice that you would say, like we talked about, like, have that passion, but is there something, like, you feel like you've learned along the way that you go, yeah, let's just, send that out to the world? Is there one that you have?
Oh gosh, that's there's probably loads. I guess the one that comes true is basically make sure that if you've got that idea, put it out there, because somebody else will have it if you don't. I don't know whether anybody's ever read the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She talks about, you have this idea and you have this space and this timeline, which it's going to belong to you. And if you don't use it and you don't use your magic to get it out there, somebody else will have it down the line.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
Yeah, so I love that idea. So it's only yours for that short period of time, whatever that looks like. And if you don't use it to its full advantage, somebody else is going to do it. And you see that all the time, don't you?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, like, oh, I thought of that, but they're doing it, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And I'd
Yeah.
love to also like just one piece of advice that you would like want to offer parents because, with the work and like there's probably a lot of mothers that are listening. Is there one piece of advice you'd like to offer any of the mums that might be listening?
I think really with parenting, it's about you doing the best you can with the tools you have, but it's about consistency.
Yeah.
So growth is about being consistent and having those small steps and taking action. So if you are in a space where you're struggling or you've got some challenges or whatever, that's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
We've all had them. And it's about saying, right, what do I do about it? Because there's so much out there, whether it's a friend to lean on, whether it's a support group, whether it's a networking group like your own, or whether it's taking some courses. There's so many women out there and fathers as well, men, that can actually support each other. So, yeah, just do something about it.
Oh, love that. Thank you so much for sharing today. And I really appreciate it. I hope that whoever's listening took something away from that because I surely did. And I truly appreciate that. And I will make sure, as I said, share all of the contact details for Ruth and so that you can get in touch if you need to flourish. So, so thank you all so much for taking the time to listen. And I hope to see you all again soon. Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you.